I have a small garden hedge project to do. I didn't have a hedge trimmer. I didn't want to buy a new one just for this little project. So I went by a thrift store and I picked up this little Black & Decker model 8100 13-inch hedge trimmer. And it looks to be in pretty good shape. It was only 15 bucks, which is perfect. I didn't want to spend a bunch of money. I plugged it in to make sure that it runs. It runs pretty well. I don't see any arcing down in here where the brushes are, so that's a good sign that the brushes are probably okay. You know, obviously it's had a lot of use. There is some maintenance you do on these things. You do have to lubricate it and care for it through the years, and I don't know what's been done on this. I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to lubricate it. I think I'll try to sharpen the blade a little bit and just get it in good shape and ready for use. It looks like this will come apart with just some basic tools. Let's see what we got here. There's 4 screws holding the blade together. There's 4 screws on the bottom of the casing. Looks like it holds the whole blade unit in there. This is a nut that holds the handle in place. We're going to take the handle off first of all and just get that out of the way. I'm thinking maybe I remove these 4 screws and take this blade out to begin with. They are Phillips screws. Let's see if they come out. They do. That one came free easy enough. Those 4 screws came out easily. Hey, sorry, I'm interrupting this video right here. Just to let you know that after I took apart this entire unit and reassembled it, I discovered that if all you need to do is lubricate the unit, simply loosen the 2 screws on the bottom here on the label side of the unit, remove the 7 screws and the handle that secure this side on, and lift off this entire side. That will give you easy access to the parts in here that you need to lubricate. Okay, back to the video. Set those aside. Now, does this come out? Well, there's junk falling out of there. It feels like part of this blade is still engaged with the motor. So that's not going to pull out by itself. If I remove these screws here, there's some nuts on the bottom of these screws. I'm going to use a socket to hold that and loosen these. There we go. There's a washer. It's a little spring washer. No washer on the top. Okay. Okay. Bar clamps these together. There's little bushings that I don't want to lose that go into each of these slots below each of the screws I took out. That one fell out there. We don't want to lose those. That comes off. All right, and that's still engaged with the motor. I think we'll open this motor casing and clean the inside of this thing out. There's debris falling out of this. I'm going to clean these using some dishwashing soap in just a few minutes. So I'm going to put these in this tray. Set that aside. These are all Phillips screws. So there's 7 screws holding this casing together. There we go. Here's what the inside looks like. It's not too bad. I'm not seeing a lot of debris. There's some branch matter. Yeah, wow, this little worm gear looks to be in pretty good shape. I don't see wear on that. I think I will grease that after I get this cleaned out a bit. Here's my brushes against the armature up here. And there's a little felt pad that absorbs oil to help lubricate that top bushing. Inside the casing, you can see there is some more debris there. Ooh, a lot of black gooey grease down in there. I'm gonna clean all that out, and I'll add new grease to this whole thing. Look at that. And we'll just get all this crud out of here as best we can. I know it doesn't have to be perfect, but I just want to be sure there's no grit and kind of dirty debris left in there that'll get into the gears or into the bearings surfaces at all. Okay, that looks pretty good. Got most of the old grease out of there. What about this side? Can I take this out? Yes. Ugh. That's just debris, or is that a... No, that's actually a felt pad that must be for providing lubrication. A lot of old crud stuck in here. Oop. Okay, we had the whole motor fall out when I did that. A bearing, a little bushing fell off. I think that goes on the bottom of the armature. My brushes sprung out of the little housings, so we don't want to lose track of all of that. Okay. Ugh, pretty dirty though. Probably a good thing this all came apart. There's a lot of goo down inside of there. Looks like this entire gear is locked in place with those two screws. Since I'm going this far, get it all apart and clean everything. Little clamp block. There's the drive gear. Yeah, that needs to be cleaned off. We'll put fresh grease on all of this. Oop, the center pin, the axle or shaft. All right, we'll set you there. The gear looks to be in pretty good shape. I'm not seeing any wear, like misshapen teeth or anything like that, so that's a good sign. Okay, before I figure out how to get all this back together, I'm going to clean my blades in the pan. Just adding a little dishwashing soap because it's pretty good at cutting grease. Okay, so I have a little scrub brush here, and we're just gonna clean these off. Yeah, good. So a lot of grease came out of that. Okay, I'm gonna go rinse these off and dry everything off. So here's my cleaned blade sections, and it looks like rough debris. I don't know if it's pitch or just wear. Pretty hard to tell on these teeth. This is the movable blade that cycles with the motor, and both sides of it seem to show a little bit of, like, I don't know, just rough stuff on here. And it feels to me like it's something that should come off of there. It didn't just come off with the cleaning. So what I'm going to do is take some 180 grit wet dry emery cloth and just see if that will come off. Just give them a gentle scrub with the emery cloth. I don't want anything to act as a resistant or friction to the movement. That's all. Make it so everything will glide easy once I get this all lubricated. Yeah, that's rust. Oh yeah, it feels better right away. Okay, I like that. We'll just give them a quick go over with this. Oh yeah, those feel a lot smoother. That should reduce any friction. The bottom, the middle, the top. That'll get reassembled and clamped together like that. Well, I've got everything cleaned up. I've laid everything out here sort of in the order that I think it goes. So I'm going to lubricate and grease these parts as I put them together. I'm not sure if there's a certain order I should do this in. We'll see as we go along here. So let's start with the little motor itself and reassemble that. I'm going to say I'll put the armature up into the housing that way. Oh, now what I want to do is put a little machine oil on this bearing. Yeah, this is just a little sort of lightweight machine oil. I'm going to put a little bit of that on this bearing surface here, just to drip. There we go. Now this bushing has a notch in it which engages with a little rib that's in that housing to be sure it aligns a certain way. The same thing with the top bushing. I'm going to put a drip of machine oil on here. So the washer goes on, the bushing goes on, and again it's going to engage with the housing that way. That drops in. Now to get these brushes in place and the brush holders, that's going to be a little tricky here. I don't want to get my greasy fingers on those too much, but we have to spring the brush in and just lay it down in there. There we go. So those are in place. Yeah, so that's what we have. Brushes are in place. These two bushings or bearings are in place. I've got a little machine oil on those. This is a little oil pad which rests above this bushing. I'm going to put another drop of oil on there because you can oil this through the housing, through this little hole in the top. The blade assembly, the oscillating blade will sit on top of that one. Then these little bushings, there's a little bushing for each location where a screw is going to go through and clamp this all together like that. And then there's a bushing, a little larger bushing that goes in this slot that will engage with the drive gear, the little post on the drive gear. That all goes together that way. This whole affair gets clamped together with this bar. That goes there, and then these screws each are going to clamp that together. Now how I do this and put this all in, I'm not sure what's the right order. So bear with me here, we'll figure this out. So I need to grease the drive gear. This has to get greased where it engages with this worm gear. And there was a lot of grease in this, which I'm not sure that it's necessary to pack this thing full of grease. That doesn't make sense to me. This is just an all-purpose grease, and we're going to apply a little bit of it to this worm gear to be sure that that is kind of lubed up. We're going to apply grease to these teeth on this gear, just like that. That's going to get distributed throughout that casing. I'm going to put a little extra grease inside the casing, just that surface. That's sort of a bearing surface there. Yeah, the surface of this is sort of a bearing surface. We're going to put some grease on there. There we go. Put that washer in place there. I'm going to go ahead and clamp this in. I'm assuming just like that. All right, that little clamp goes on here with these screws. I don't have to over tighten them, they just have to be secure such that that shaft will remain in place. All right, you know what, I am going to put a little dab of grease on each one of these bushings, and that'll help kind of stick them in place over top of the hole where the screw goes through. So that's what I've done. I have each little bushing where it goes between those two. This bar is going to go in place, screw through each hole. Let's see, I'm going to do 2 of these just to start with. Get everything aligned that way. Loosely put a nut on the bottom side. We'll do final adjustments to the tension on all of this after we have it in the housing unit. Okay, that moves pretty well. And I'm going to add additional lubrication in here after I have this assembled in the housing unit. This bushing right there, this pad, I'm thinking it was used as a spacer, just simply to sort of hold everything in place while the assembly was done. In other words, there's a little gap down here in this housing. I believe that this simply went in here to act as a little bit of a spacer to hold everything, just to get the clamps or get the screws in place in the housing, clamping it all. And then my switch, it's got to rest in this slot here. See how everything goes? So the switch is in this slot, and then the cap for it, oh, that has to go with it, huh? So we have to kind of lift it out, put it all in there together. There we go. And that housing is going to go on here. Let me try it now. There we go. I can tighten the rest of these screws on the housing. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and mount my handle, and I am going to put it on this side. That feels pretty good. Oh, let's see. Now we're going to put a little machine oil along the blade and let it seep in between these surfaces. This you're supposed to oil regularly when you're using the tool. So probably before each time I use the tool, I should be sure to do that. There we go. Sounds good. It actually sounds quieter than it did before. Nice. I think this is going to work really well. I'm going to clean up here, then we'll go out and try this. Yeah, works pretty well. So I think my $15 investment was worthwhile. This is going to work great to trim this back quickly and easily. Good deal.